The maintenance bay of orbital station Prometheus hummed with the usual sounds of repair work. Plasma cutters sparked against damaged hull plating while service drones buzzed between the massive support struts. Admiral Markuschan stood on the observation deck, watching his fleet limp back from what should have been a routine patrol. Routine. The word tasted bitter in his mouth now. "Sir, the casualty reports are coming in," Lieutenant Davies approached with a data pad, her young face pale with exhaustion. 17 ships lost, 43 damaged. We're looking at nearly 3,000 casualties. Chen took the pad but didn't look at it immediately. His eyes remained fixed on the scarred hull of the destroyer Valiant, which had barely made it back to station. The Zephyrian attack had been swift and devastating. Their new ships moved like nothing the human fleet had encountered before, faster, more agile, with weapons that cut through Earth's finest shields like paper. "Admiral, there's something else," Davies hesitated. "We intercepted a transmission during the battle. Command thinks it might be important." "Play it." The speaker crackled to life with static, then, a voice emerged, calm, professional, distinctly human. "This is Phantom to any Earth vessels in the area. I have visual on your engagement. Recommend immediate withdrawal to Grid 77 Alpha. You're walking into a trap." Chen's blood turned to ice. He knew that call sign. Knew that voice. "Sir?" Davies noticed his reaction. "How old is this transmission?" 3 hours, sir. Right before the ambush started." 3 hours. If they had received it in time, if they had listened, those 17 ships might still be intact. 3,000 Marines and pilots might still be alive. "Davies, I need you to run a deep scan on that transmission. Cross-reference the call sign Phantom with all military records from the last 20 years. "Yes, sir." "Should I include classified files?" "All files." "Use my authorization code." As Davies hurried away, Chen remained at the observation window. In the distance, a small civilian transport docked at one of the lower berths. Nothing unusual about it. Dozens of civilian ships came and went from Prometheus daily, carrying supplies, refugees, and merchants. But something made him watch this one more carefully. The transport was old but well-maintained, its hull bearing the scars of long journeys through space. As Chen watched, a single figure emerged from the airlock. From this distance, he couldn't make out details, but something about the way the person moved triggered a memory. His communicator buzzed. "Admiral, this is Davies. You're going to want to see this." Chen made his way to the intelligence center, where Davies had multiple screens displaying information. Her face was grim. "Sir, the call sign Phantom belongs to Captain Sarah Mitchell. She was declared Kia 5 years ago during the Battle of Kepler Station." The name hit Chen like a physical blow. Sarah Mitchell. The ghost of the Outer Rim. The woman who had saved more human colonies than any other pilot in the war. The woman he had personally recommended for the Stellar Cross after she held off an entire Zephyrian squadron single-handedly to evacuate civilians from New Terra. "Show me her file." The screen filled with information. Captain Sarah Mitchell, call sign Phantom. Born on Mars colony, parents killed in the first Zephyrian raids. Joined the fleet at 18, rose through the ranks faster than anyone in modern history. Certified on 17 different ship classes, from fighters to cruisers. Credited with 47 confirmed kills and over 100 assists. And then, 5 years ago, her ship had been destroyed in the final assault on Kepler Station. No survivors found. Listed as killed in action, posthumously promoted to commander, awarded the Stellar Cross. "Davies, are you certain about the transmission's origin point?" "Yes, sir. It came from somewhere near the asteroid field at the edge of the system. But there were no ships in that area according to our sensors. No registered ships." Chen studied the data, his mind racing. If Sarah Mitchell was alive, if she had somehow survived Kepler Station, where had she been for 5 years? And why was she warning Earthships about Zephyrian traps? "Sir, I've been analyzing the transmission further." Davies pulled up another screen. The voice pattern matches Captain Mitchell's profile with 97.3% certainty. But there's something else. The background radiation signature suggests the transmission came from a ship using experimental stealth technology. Experimental how? The energy patterns don't match anything in our database. If I had to guess, I'd say it was either very advanced Earth tech we don't know about, or alien technology. Davies nodded grimly. Chen's mind raced through the implications. If Sarah was alive, if she had access to advanced stealth technology, if she was monitoring human fleet movements and warning them about ambushes, then she had become something more than just a missing pilot. She had become a ghost in the machine, a guardian angel watching over humanity from the shadows. But why hadn't she come home? The answer came to him with cold clarity. Because she couldn't. Because whatever had happened to her at Kepler Station had changed her in ways that made returning impossible. Either she had been captured and turned, or she had acquired something the enemy wanted, or she had discovered something that made her more valuable as a hidden asset than as an active duty officer. Davies, I want you to scan all communications from the past year. Look for any transmissions that match this voice pattern or this call sign. Also, cross-reference any unexplained warnings or tips that helped our ships avoid ambushes. That's a massive search, sir. It could take days. Then, get started. And, Davies? This stays classified. Need to know basis only. As Davies began her work, Chen returned to the observation deck. The civilian transport was still docked, and he found himself wondering about its pilot. Was it just coincidence that it had arrived so soon after the transmission? Or was someone watching them, waiting to see how Earth forces would react to the warning? He activated his personal communicator and sent a coded message to his security chief. Run a discreet scan on the civilian transport at Docking Bay 7. I want to know everything about it: registration, cargo manifest, pilot credentials, travel history. Do it quietly. Minutes later, the reply came back. Transport registered as Wanderer, Captain Elena Vasquez. Cargo manifest lists general supplies and personal effects. Pilot credentials check out, but something's odd about the travel history. The ship has been to some very remote systems, places most civilian traders wouldn't risk going. Chen felt his pulse quicken. Remote systems. Places where someone might hide, might gather intelligence, might intercept enemy communications. Keep watching that ship. If the pilot leaves the transport, I want to know where they go. Yes, sir. Should I approach? No. Just observe. Chen knew he was taking a risk. If he was wrong, he was wasting valuable resources chasing ghosts while real threats loomed. But if he was right, if Sarah Mitchell was somehow alive and operating in the shadows, then she might be humanity's best hope for understanding the new Zephyrian tactics. The enemy had changed. Their ships were faster, their weapons more powerful, their strategies more sophisticated. The old human advantage of superior tactics and determination was being eroded by technological superiority. Earth needed every edge it could get. And if that edge came in the form of a dead hero operating from beyond the grave, then Admiral Chen was prepared to follow that ghost wherever it led. Hours passed as Chen coordinated the fleet's repairs and reviewed battle reports. The picture that emerged was troubling. The Zephyrians weren't just using new technology, they were using it strategically, targeting specific ships and systems with surgical precision. It was as if they knew exactly where to strike to cause maximum damage. That suggested intelligence gathering on a massive scale. Either they had spies within the Earth fleet, or they had surveillance capabilities far beyond what humanity had suspected. But there was another possibility. What if the intelligence flowed both ways? What if someone was watching the Watchers, gathering information on Zephyrian movements and capabilities? Someone with access to advanced stealth technology and deep knowledge of both human and alien tactics? Chen's communicator buzzed again. Admiral, this is security. The pilot of the transport left their ship about an hour ago. They're in the civilian quarter, specifically at Murphy's Bar. Murphy's Bar. Chen knew it well, a dive that catered to off-duty personnel and visiting spacers. It was also the kind of place where someone could blend in, observe, and listen without drawing attention. Description of the pilot? Average height, wearing a long coat and hat that obscures their features. Moves with military bearing despite the civilian clothes. Sitting alone in a corner booth, nursing a single drink. Military bearing. Chen felt his suspicions crystallize into certainty. He had to see for himself. Maintain observation but do not approach. I'm coming down. Chen changed out of his uniform into civilian clothes, a simple jacket and pants that would let him blend in with the station's merchant population. As he made his way through the corridors toward the civilian quarter, he considered his options. If this was indeed Sarah Mitchell, approaching her directly might cause her to bolt. She had survived 5 years in hiding, which meant she was cautious to an extreme degree. But Chen needed answers. Earth needed answers. Murphy's bar was exactly as he remembered it, dimly lit, crowded with spacers from a dozen worlds, and loud enough that conversations couldn't be easily overheard. Chen ordered a drink at the bar and used the mirror behind it to study the corner booth his security chief had mentioned. The figure sitting there was indeed wearing a long coat and hat, but Chen could see enough to notice details that confirmed his suspicions. The way they held their head, the careful positioning that gave them clear lines of sight to all entrances, the barely perceptible tension in their shoulders that spoke of someone always ready to move quickly. Chen had seen that exact posture 100 times during planning sessions and briefings. Sarah Mitchell had always sat the same way, always ready, always aware. He picked up his drink and moved slowly through the bar, pretending to look for an empty table. As he drew closer to the corner booth, the figure's head turned slightly, not enough to look directly at him, but enough to track his movement peripherally. Professional awareness. Military training. Chen made his decision. He walked directly to the booth and slid into the seat across from the mysterious figure. Captain Mitchell, he said quietly, we need to talk. The figure went absolutely still for a heartbeat. Then, slowly, a hand reached up and pulled back the hat. Admiral Marcus Chen found himself looking into the green eyes of a ghost. Sarah Mitchell looked older than her file photos, her face bearing new scars and a hardness that spoke of years spent in the darkness between stars. But it was definitely her, the woman he had thought dead for 5 years, sitting across from him in a dingy bar as if she had never left. Hello, Admiral, she said, her voice carrying the same calm professionalism he remembered. I was wondering when you'd find me. You've been expecting this? I've been expecting it for 5 years. You were always too smart to let a mystery go unsolved. She took a sip of her drink. Though I have to admit, I thought it would be Captain Harrison who tracked me down. You always preferred the big picture. Chen studied her face, looking for clues about what had happened to her. Everyone thinks you're dead. I know. I've read my own obituary. Quite moving, really. You gave a nice speech at the memorial service. Sarah, where have you been? She smiled, but there was no humor in it. That's a long story, Marcus. And not one I can tell in its entirety. At least, not yet. Try me. Sarah glanced around the bar, confirming they weren't being observed. I've been hunting, Admiral. Tracking the enemy's movements, learning their capabilities, trying to understand their strategy. Someone has to keep watch on the watchers. From a civilian transport? The Wanderer is more than she appears. Much more. Sarah's eyes grew distant. I've seen things out there, Marcus. Things that would terrify the Admiralty. The Zephyrians aren't just expanding randomly, they have a plan, a coordinated strategy that spans multiple star systems. And they're moving faster than Earth realizes. Chen felt a chill run down his spine. How much faster? The attack today was just a probe. They're testing your new defensive formations, analyzing your response times, measuring the effectiveness of their upgraded weapons. Sarah leaned forward slightly. In 6 weeks, maybe 8, they're going to launch a massive offensive against the core human worlds. Your fleet isn't ready for what's coming. The words hit Chen like a physical blow. How do you know this? Because I've been watching them prepare. I've seen their staging areas, their supply lines, their new ship classes. Marcus, they have vessels that make today's attackers look like toys. Dreadnoughts the size of space stations, fighters that can phase through solid matter, weapons that can destroy a planet's atmosphere in minutes. Chen's drink sat forgotten as the implications crashed over him. If Sarah was right, if the Zephyrians were planning an offensive of that magnitude, then everything humanity had built in the outer colonies was at risk. Millions of lives hung in the balance. Why haven't you reported this through official channels? Sarah's expression darkened. Because there's something else, something worse. The Zephyrians aren't acting alone anymore, Marcus. They have allies. Human allies. The bar around them seemed to grow quieter, as if the universe itself was holding its breath. That's impossible. I wish it were. But, I've seen the evidence. Human technology integrated with alien systems. Earth communication protocols being used by enemy fleets. Strategy patterns that combine Zephyrian aggression with human tactical thinking. Sarah's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. Someone high up in Earth Command is feeding them information. Someone with access to fleet movements, defensive plans, even research data on new weapons systems. Chen felt the world tilt around him. A traitor in Earth Command would explain how the Zephyrians had been anticipating human tactics so effectively. It would explain the surgical precision of their attacks, the way they seemed to know exactly where to strike for maximum effect. Do you have proof? Some. Not enough to make accusations against specific individuals, but enough to know the threat is real. Sarah reached into her coat and produced a small data crystal. This contains everything I've been able to gather in 5 years of hunting. Battle plans, ship specifications, communication intercepts, movement patterns. Study it carefully, Marcus. The survival of human civilization may depend on what you do with this information. Chen took the crystal, feeling its weight both physical and symbolic. What about you? Are you coming back? Sarah shook her head. I can't. Not yet. There are still too many questions, too many threats I need to track down. And if there really is a traitor in Earth Command, then my return might compromise everything I've worked for. So you'll just disappear again? I'll be watching, like always. When you need me, when humanity needs me, I'll be there. Sarah stood up, pulling her hat back down over her features. But, Marcus, be careful who you trust with that information. The enemy has eyes and ears everywhere, including places you least suspect. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and, Admiral? That transmission you received today won't be the last. When the final battle comes, you'll need every advantage you can get. Some of those advantages might come from unexpected sources. Before Chen could respond, Sarah Mitchell melted back into the crowd of spacers and merchants, vanishing as completely as if she had never been there at all. Chen sat alone in the booth, staring at the data crystal in his palm and feeling the weight of terrible knowledge settling on his shoulders. Somewhere in the darkness between stars, humanity's greatest pilot was hunting an enemy that had already infiltrated the highest levels of Earth's defense. And, in 6 weeks, maybe 8, that enemy would launch an attack that could end human civilization forever. Admiral Marcus Chen finished his drink and began planning for a war that most of humanity didn't even know was coming. Admiral Chen returned to his quarters with the data crystal burning like a coal in his pocket. The corridors of orbital station Prometheus felt different now. Every face could belong to a potential traitor, every shadow might hide an enemy agent. The paranoia was irrational, but the threat was real. He sealed his door and activated the highest level of privacy shields before inserting the crystal into his personal terminal. What appeared on screen over the next several hours fundamentally changed his understanding of the war humanity was fighting. Sarah Mitchell had been busy during her 5 years of exile. The data contained detailed schematics of new Zephyrian vessel classes, including the massive dreadnoughts she had mentioned. Ships 3 times the size of Earth's largest cruisers, equipped with weapons that could punch through planetary shields. But, more disturbing were the technical specifications. Many systems showed clear signs of human engineering principles merged with alien technology. The communication protocols were particularly damning. Sarah had intercepted dozens of transmissions between Zephyrian fleets that used modified versions of Earth military codes. Someone with high-level access was providing the enemy with current encryption keys, tactical frequencies, and operational procedures. Chen cross-referenced the intelligence with recent battle reports, and a pattern emerged that made his blood run cold. Every major defeat humanity had suffered in the past 2 years showed signs of enemy foreknowledge. The ambush at Proxima Station, where Admiral Rodriguez lost half his fleet. The surprise attack on the research facility at Wolf 359, where prototype weapons were destroyed before they could be deployed. The devastating raid on the civilian colonies in the Tau Ceti system. Each time, the Zephyrians had struck with perfect timing and complete tactical awareness. Not luck. Betrayal. Chen's communicator buzzed with an encrypted message from Earth Command. Priority Alpha. His blood pressure spiked. Priority Alpha meant either imminent attack or critical strategic intelligence. He opened the message and felt his worst fears confirmed. Admiral Chen, this is Fleet Command. Long-range sensors have detected massive Zephyrian fleet movements in sectors 7 through 12. Preliminary analysis suggests a coordinated offensive involving over 200 capital ships and supporting vessels. Estimated time to reach human-controlled systems, 45 to 60 days. All fleet commanders are ordered to prepare defensive positions and begin evacuation of non-essential civilian populations. Further orders to follow. Admiral Harrison, Chief of Operations. 45 days. Sarah had predicted 6 to 8 weeks, and she had been right on target. Chen stared at the message, feeling the weight of terrible knowledge. He knew things that could save thousands of lives, but sharing that knowledge might expose the source and destroy their only intelligence asset behind enemy lines. He made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of the war. Chen drafted a carefully worded report to Fleet Command, sharing selected portions of Sarah's intelligence while concealing its source. He described the enemy fleet movements as confirmed by deep reconnaissance assets and recommended specific defensive preparations based on the new ship classifications. He also included a subtle warning about communication security, suggesting that recent enemy successes indicated possible intelligence leaks. What he didn't include was any mention of human collaborators or the extent of enemy technological advancement. That information was too dangerous to trust to normal communication channels. The response came within hours. Admiral Harrison himself, via secure video link. Marcus, your intelligence report raises serious questions. Harrison's weathered face filled the screen. What reconnaissance assets provided this information? I'm not showing any deep penetration missions in those sectors. Chen had prepared for this question. Off-the-books intelligence gathering, sir. Sources that prefer to remain unidentified but have proven reliable in the past. Harrison's eyes narrowed. Off the books? Marcus, you know the regulations about unauthorized intelligence operations. Who authorized this? I did, sir. Acting under emergency protocols to gather critical intelligence about enemy movements. It wasn't technically a lie. As a fleet admiral, Chen did have authority to authorize reconnaissance missions in certain circumstances. He was stretching that authority to breaking point, but the alternative was revealing Sarah's existence to people who might include the very traitors she was hunting. I see. Harrison was silent for several moments. Your intelligence suggests the enemy has significantly upgraded their capabilities. Do your sources have any information about how they acquired this technology? Chen chose his words carefully. The technology appears to be a hybrid of alien and human design principles, sir. This suggests either theft of our research data or direct collaboration. Harrison's expression grew grim. Collaboration. You're talking about treason, Marcus. That's a serious accusation. I'm simply reporting what the intelligence indicates, sir. Whether it's theft or collaboration, we have a serious security breach somewhere in our command structure. I'll initiate a security review immediately. In the meantime, I want you to maintain contact with your sources. If they can provide advance warning about enemy movements, that intelligence could be the difference between victory and annihilation." The conversation ended, leaving Chen with mixed feelings. Harrison had taken the threat seriously, which was good. But Chen had also painted a target on Sarah's back by acknowledging the existence of intelligence sources. If there really were traitors in Earth Command, they would now be actively searching for whoever was providing early warning about enemy activities. Over the following weeks, Chen watched as Earth's military machine slowly came to life in response to the intelligence warnings. Fleets were repositioned, civilian evacuations began, and defensive installations were reinforced. But he also noticed other things: subtle changes in communication protocols, increased security sweeps, and a growing atmosphere of suspicion within the command structure. Someone was indeed hunting for Sarah Mitchell. Chen received regular updates from his security team monitoring civilian traffic through Prometheus Station. Several ships matching the general description of the Wanderer had docked and departed, but none with the same pilot. Sarah had gone to ground, probably moving between different vessels and identities to avoid detection. But she was still watching. Chen knew this because the intelligence updates continued. Every few days, a new transmission would arrive through untraceable channels. Enemy fleet positions, changes in Zephyrian tactics, warnings about specific threats. The information was always accurate and always timely, allowing Earth forces to avoid several potential disasters. It was also getting more specific and more urgent. Admiral Lieutenant Davies appeared at his door with the latest intelligence summary. "We've received another transmission from our anonymous source. This one is different." Chen gestured her inside and activated privacy shields. "Different how?" "It includes detailed specifications for a new type of Zephyrian weapon, something called a phase disruptor. According to the data, it can destabilize the molecular bonds in any material, essentially dissolving ships and stations from the inside out." Chen felt his blood turn to ice. "Deployment timeline?" "The transmission suggests they're planning to test it during the main offensive. If it works as described, our existing armor and shielding will be completely ineffective." Chen studied the technical readouts, trying to understand the science behind the weapon. The concepts were advanced beyond current human understanding, but the implications were clear. If the Zephyrians could dissolve matter at the molecular level, traditional defensive strategies would be useless. "Is there any indication of countermeasures?" "That's the strange part, sir. The transmission includes suggestions for modifications to our shield generators that might provide some protection. It's as if the source isn't just providing intelligence, they're actively trying to help us develop countermeasures." Sarah was doing more than watching. She was actively working to level the playing field, using her access to enemy technology to develop ways for humanity to defend itself. But that level of detailed technical knowledge suggested she had more than just observational access to Zephyrian research. It suggested she had penetrated their development programs at the highest level. Chen's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Admiral Harrison. "Marcus, we need to talk. Secure channel, immediately." The video link established, Harrison's expression was grave. "Marcus, I've completed the preliminary security review. The results are disturbing. We've identified at least 3 instances where classified information was accessed outside normal protocols in the weeks leading up to recent Zephyrian attacks." Chen felt his heart rate increase. "Specific individuals?" "That's where it gets complicated. The access logs show proper authorization, but the timing is suspicious. Someone with legitimate clearance has been accessing tactical plans, fleet movements, and research data just before it becomes tactically relevant to the enemy." "Any candidates?" "Several. But here's what concerns me most: the access pattern suggests someone with very high clearance levels. Admiral level access or above." Harrison paused. "Marcus, I need to ask directly, are your intelligence sources operating with your explicit authorization? Because if they're accessing classified databases without permission, that could explain some of these security anomalies." Chen felt the trap closing around him. If he denied authorizing intelligence operations, Harrison would demand to know who was providing the information. If he claimed authorization, he might be implicating himself in the very security breaches they were investigating. My sources operate independently, sir. They don't have access to Earth databases, their intelligence comes from direct observation of enemy activities. Then, how do you explain the technical sophistication of their reports? The specifications for enemy weapons systems they're providing show detailed knowledge of classified human research programs. Either your sources have access to our databases, or they have access to enemy databases that contain our stolen information. The logical trap was perfect. Harrison was essentially accusing Chen of either running unauthorized intelligence operations or of receiving information from enemy sources. Both scenarios painted Chen as either a rogue operator or a potential traitor. Sir, I can only report what my sources provide. If their information appears to correlate with classified human research, that might indicate the extent to which our security has already been compromised. Perhaps. Or it might indicate that your sources aren't who they claim to be. Harrison's expression hardened. Marcus, I'm ordering a complete audit of all intelligence sources and methods under your command. I want detailed records of every contact, every transmission, and every piece of information received. If your sources are legitimate, this audit will clear you. If they're not. The threat was implicit but clear. Chen was now under investigation, and any continued contact with Sarah would be seen as evidence of treasonous activity. I understand, sir. I'll compile the necessary documentation. You have 48 hours, Marcus. And, Marcus? No further intelligence operations without explicit approval from Fleet Command. That's a direct order. The connection ended, leaving Chen alone with the weight of impossible choices. He could comply with the audit and destroy any chance of maintaining contact with Sarah, potentially costing humanity its best intelligence asset. Or he could continue the unauthorized operations and risk being branded a traitor himself. Either way, the trap was closing. That night, as Chen struggled with the decision that could determine the fate of human civilization, a familiar voice whispered from his personal communicator. Marcus, we need to meet. Tonight. Docking Bay 12, maintenance level. Come alone, and make sure you're not followed. Sarah's voice carried an urgency he had never heard before. The situation has changed. What I'm about to tell you will either save humanity or get us both killed. Probably both. Chen stared at the communicator for a long moment. In a few hours, he would either be meeting with humanity's greatest hope or walking into a trap that would brand him as a traitor and destroyer of worlds. He checked his sidearm, activated his personal stealth field, and headed for what might be the most important conversation in human history. Docking Bay 12 was one of the older sections of Prometheus Station, used primarily for maintenance and storage. At night, it was virtually deserted except for automated systems and security drones. Chen made his way through the maze of equipment and supply containers, checking constantly for signs of surveillance. He found Sarah waiting in the shadows between two massive cargo haulers, her civilian clothes replaced by what looked like a modified military flight suit. Even in the dim light, Chen could see that it incorporated technology he didn't recognize. Subtle energy patterns flowed across the fabric, and the material seemed to bend light around its edges. Admiral, she stepped out of the shadows. Thank you for coming. Sarah, this is dangerous. Fleet Command is investigating my intelligence sources. If they discover you exist. They already know I exist, Marcus. Or at least, they know someone like me exists. That's why I had to meet you tonight. Chen felt his blood chill. What do you mean? The traitor in Earth Command isn't working alone. They're part of a larger network, and that network has been looking for me specifically. They know someone is gathering intelligence on Zephyrian operations, and they're getting close to finding me. How close? Close enough that I had to abandon 3 different identities in the past week. Close enough that they've started monitoring the families of every dead pilot from the past 5 years, looking for someone who might be maintaining contact. Sarah's expression was grim. Marcus, they're not just selling information to the Zephyrians. They're actively hunting Earth's own intelligence assets. The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. They know you survived Kepler Station. Worse than that. They know what I found there. Chen waited, knowing that whatever Sarah was about to reveal would change everything. Marcus, the Battle of Kepler Station wasn't a victory or a defeat. It was a setup. The Zephyrians weren't trying to destroy the station, they were trying to capture it. And they weren't acting alone. Sarah reached into her suit and produced a data chip. What I'm about to show you is the real reason I've been hiding for 5 years. The real reason I couldn't come home. She activated a portable holoprojector, and the space between them filled with images that made Chen's blood turn to ice. The hologram showed the interior of Kepler Station during the final battle. But, instead of the heroic last stand Chen remembered from the official reports, he saw something far more sinister. Human officers working alongside Zephyrian boarding parties. Earth military personnel directing alien troops to specific targets. The systematic capture, not destruction, of critical research facilities. My God, Chen whispered. The collaborators weren't just selling information, Marcus. They were actively participating in joint operations. Kepler Station was a testing ground for human-Zephyrian cooperation. They were studying our technology, our tactics, our personnel. The hologram shifted to show technical schematics, hybrid weapons systems, combined fleet formations, integrated command structures. It was a blueprint for the complete integration of human and Zephyrian military forces. The coming offensive isn't just an alien invasion, Marcus. It's a takeover by a combined human-alien coalition. The traitors aren't selling us out, they're planning to rule over what's left after the conquest. Chen stared at the evidence, his mind reeling. Who? Who's involved? That's what I've been trying to determine for 5 years. The network includes officers at every level of Earth Command, scientists in the research divisions, politicians in the civilian government. But, there's someone at the very top, someone with enough authority to coordinate all of this without triggering security alerts. Admiral Harrison? I don't know. Maybe. Or maybe someone even higher up the chain. Sarah deactivated the projector. Marcus, I need your help. Not just as a fleet commander, but as someone I can trust absolutely. Because what I'm planning to do next will either expose this network completely or get me killed in the attempt. Chen looked at the woman he had thought dead, seeing her now as humanity's last desperate hope for survival. What do you need? I need to get inside the enemy command structure. Not just observing from the outside, but actually infiltrating their planning sessions, their research facilities, their fleet coordination centers. That's suicide, Sarah. Even with your stealth technology, you can't penetrate that kind of security. Sarah smiled, but there was no humor in it. I'm not going to sneak in, Marcus. I'm going to be invited in. Chen felt a chill of premonition. What are you talking about? But collaborators think I'm dead. But, they also know someone is providing intelligence to Earth Command. Someone with access to their operations. They're looking for this person, and they're getting desperate enough to take risks to find them. Sarah, no. Whatever you're thinking. I'm going to let them catch me, Marcus. I'm going to surface just enough to get their attention, then let them capture me. Once I'm inside their network, I can identify the key players and gather the evidence needed to expose them all. And if they just kill you instead? Then, you'll have to find another way to save humanity. But, Marcus, this is our best chance. Maybe our only chance. The network has to be destroyed before the offensive begins, or Earth will fall before the first shot is fired. Chen stared at her, seeing the determination in her eyes and knowing that no argument would change her mind. Sarah Mitchell had always been willing to sacrifice herself for humanity. It was what made her a hero, and what would probably get her killed. What do you need from me? 2 things. First, I need you to maintain normal intelligence operations for the next week. Keep requesting information through official channels, keep acting as if your sources are external. This will maintain the illusion that whoever is feeding you intelligence is still operating independently. And, second, when I disappear, when the intelligence stops coming, I need you to act surprised but not desperate. Don't launch search operations or increase security. Act as if you've lost a valuable asset but not your only asset. The collaborators need to believe they've solved their problem by eliminating me. Chen nodded slowly. And, then? Then, you wait. If I succeed, you'll know because the evidence will start surfacing through other channels. Official channels. If I fail. If you fail, Earth falls. Probably. But, Marcus, if I do fail, don't try to continue the intelligence operations. Don't try to find me or rescue me. Focus on preparing the fleet for the offensive, because without inside intelligence, the only way humanity survives is through overwhelming force. Sarah handed him another data chip. This contains everything I've gathered so far. Study it. Use it to prepare Earth's defenses. And if I don't come back, make sure the truth about Kepler Station reaches the right people. She turned to leave, then paused. Oh, and, Marcus? That phase disruptor weapon I warned you about? It's real, and it's worse than the reports indicated. But there is a countermeasure. The modifications to shield generators I suggested will work, but only if they're implemented fleet-wide within the next 30 days. Sarah. Goodbye, Marcus. It's been an honor serving with you. And then, she was gone, vanishing into the shadows of the maintenance bay like the ghost she had become. Chen stood alone among the cargo containers, holding the future of human civilization in his hands and, knowing that the next few weeks would determine whether humanity survived or became a footnote in galactic history. In the distance, alarms began to sound. Emergency protocols were being activated throughout the station. Chen's communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Fleet Command. Admiral Chen, this is Harrison. We've detected massive Zephyrian fleet movements. The offensive has begun ahead of schedule. All fleet commanders are ordered to implement emergency defensive protocols immediately. The war for humanity's survival starts now. Chen looked down at the data chips Sarah had given him, then, up at the vast expanse of space beyond the station's viewports. Somewhere out there, the enemy was coming with overwhelming force and inside knowledge. But, somewhere else, a ghost was about to sacrifice herself to give humanity one last chance at survival. Admiral Marcus Chen activated his communicator and began issuing the orders that would either save human civilization or witness its final destruction. The emergency klaxons of Prometheus Station blared through the corridors as Admiral Chen raced to the command center. The data chips Sarah had given him seemed to burn through his pocket, each one containing intelligence that could save thousands of lives or expose him as a traitor. The weight of impossible choices pressed down on his shoulders as he tried to process the magnitude of what he had learned. Human collaborators. Hybrid technology. A conspiracy that reached the highest levels of Earth Command. And, now, Sarah was walking into certain death to expose it all. Admiral on deck. The command center snapped to attention as Chen entered, but he barely noticed the formal greeting. His eyes went immediately to the massive tactical display dominating the center of the room. What he saw there made his blood turn to ice. The display showed the positions of human and alien fleets across multiple star systems, updated in real time by long-range sensors and reconnaissance drones. The Zephyrian offensive wasn't just massive, it was perfectly coordinated, striking simultaneously at 17 different human outposts while maintaining reserve forces that could respond to any Earth counterattack. Status report, Chen commanded as he took his position at the central command console. Sir, the enemy offensive began 47 minutes ago, Lieutenant Commander Torres reported. Initial strikes have targeted our outer defensive perimeters in the Proxima, Wolf, and Kepler systems. Enemy fleet strength is estimated at over 300 capital ships supported by approximately 2,000 smaller vessels. Chen studied the tactical readout, comparing what he saw with the intelligence Sarah had provided. The attack patterns matched her predictions with terrifying accuracy. The Zephyrians were using exactly the hybrid tactics she had described, alien technology guided by human strategic thinking. Casualties? Still coming in, sir. Early reports suggest we've lost at least 12 stations and over 40 ships in the initial wave. The enemy isn't just attacking, they're systematically destroying our communication relays and sensor networks. That was a human tactic. Aliens might destroy military targets, but systematically dismantling communication infrastructure was distinctly human thinking. It suggested the collaborators weren't just providing information, they were actively participating in the strategic planning. Admiral, incoming priority transmission from Fleet Command, the communications officer announced. Put it through. Admiral Harrison's image appeared on the main screen, his usually composed expression showing strain. Marcus, the situation is worse than our projections indicated. The enemy isn't just attacking our military installations, they're targeting civilian populations specifically. They're not trying to conquer territory, they're trying to break our will to fight. Chen felt sick. Total war against civilian targets wasn't a Zephyrian strategy, it was human doctrine from the darkest chapters of Earth's military history. Orders, sir? All fleet commanders are authorized to implement Emergency Protocol 7. Full mobilization, unlimited engagement parameters, and priority evacuation of civilian populations. Harrison paused, his expression growing grim. Marcus, there's something else. We've detected enemy ships using modified Earth technology. Specifically, modifications that incorporate classified research data. Chen kept his expression neutral despite the chill running down his spine. Confirmed enemy access to our research programs? It appears so. The modifications they're using were developed in classified programs that only a handful of people had access to. We're looking at either a massive security breach or active collaboration at the highest levels. What about the investigation into intelligence sources? Harrison's expression darkened. Suspended indefinitely. We have bigger problems now than unauthorized reconnaissance. If your sources are still providing intelligence, we need everything they can give us. Chen nodded, knowing that Sarah's sacrifice had bought him temporary freedom to act. But it was also a reminder that time was running out. I'll maintain contact with my assets and relay any critical intelligence immediately. Do that. And, Marcus? Whatever resources you need, whatever authority you require, you have it. The survival of human civilization may depend on the intelligence your people can provide. The transmission ended, leaving Chen alone with the terrible weight of his deception. Harrison was counting on intelligence from sources that were about to disappear forever. In a matter of hours, Sarah would surface just enough to be captured, and then, the flow of critical information would stop. Unless Chen could find a way to continue her work. He activated his personal terminal and began reviewing the intelligence Sarah had provided, looking for patterns that might help him predict enemy movements even without direct surveillance. The technical specifications alone were invaluable. Understanding how the hybrid weapons worked might allow Earth's scientists to develop countermeasures. But, as Chen studied the data, he noticed something that made his blood chill. The integration of human and alien technology wasn't random or improvised. It showed careful planning, systematic research, and coordinated development over several years. This wasn't opportunistic collaboration, it was a long-term conspiracy that had been in planning since before the war began. Admiral, incoming transmission on an encrypted civilian frequency, the communications officer announced. Audio only, source unknown. Chen's pulse quickened. Sarah's final message before she disappeared into the enemy's hands. Put it through to my private channel. He moved to a secure console and accepted the transmission. Sarah's voice filled his earpiece, calm and professional despite what she was about to do. Marcus, this is Phantom. I'm about to surface and make contact with the collaboration network. If you're receiving this message, it means I've successfully attracted their attention and am proceeding with the infiltration plan. Chen closed his eyes, knowing he was listening to what might be Sarah's last words. I've uploaded additional intelligence to a secure server using the access codes on data chip 3. This intelligence includes detailed schematics for the phase disruptor weapon and preliminary countermeasure designs. Implement these countermeasures immediately. You have less than 72 hours before the weapon is deployed against Earth forces. 72 hours. Chen checked the tactical display again. The main Zephyrian fleet was still 3 days out from the core human worlds. The timing aligned perfectly with Sarah's intelligence. Marcus, there's something else. The collaboration network isn't just working with the Zephyrians, they've been in contact with other alien species as well. This war isn't just about human versus Zephyrian expansion. It's about incorporating humanity into a much larger galactic power structure. The implications hit Chen like a physical blow. If other alien species were involved, then, defeating the Zephyrians might not end the threat. It might just bring humanity to the attention of even more dangerous enemies. The good news is that not all the alien species support the collaboration. Some of them view the human-Zephyrian alliance as a threat to galactic stability. If we can expose the collaboration network and prove that humans are being coerced rather than willingly cooperating, we might gain unexpected allies. A pause in the transmission, then, Sarah's voice returned with new urgency. Marcus, they've found me. I'm going to allow myself to be captured in approximately 30 minutes. From this point forward, maintain normal operations and avoid any actions that might suggest you're aware of my mission. If I succeed, the evidence will surface through official channels within 1 week. If I fail. Another pause, longer this time. If I fail, everything depends on the countermeasures for the phase disruptor. Without them, Earth's fleets won't survive the coming battle. The specifications are detailed enough for your engineers to implement, but they'll need to work around the clock to outfit the entire fleet in time. Chen opened the secure server using the codes Sarah had provided. The data that downloaded made him realize just how much intelligence she had gathered during her 5 years of hunting. Weapon specifications, ship designs, tactical doctrines, personnel files, communication protocols, enough information to revolutionize Earth's understanding of the enemy. And, buried in the middle of the files, a list of names that made Chen's hands shake. The collaboration network wasn't just a few rogue officers selling information. It included 3 admirals, 7 colonels, 12 scientists from the Advanced Weapons Research Division, and 6 members of the Planetary Defense Council. The conspiracy reached into every level of Earth's military and civilian leadership. But what made Chen's blood turn to ice was the name at the top of the list. Admiral William Harrison. Chief of Operations, Earth Fleet Command. The man who had been leading the investigation into intelligence leaks. The man who had ordered the audit of Chen's sources. The man who was currently coordinating humanity's defense against the Zephyrian offensive. Chen stared at the name, his mind reeling with the implications. If Harrison was leading the collaboration network, then every defensive strategy, every fleet deployment, every tactical decision was being shared with the enemy in real time. The war wasn't just rigged, it was being deliberately lost. But there was something else in the file. A second list, labeled Potential Allies Unconfirmed. This list included the names of officers and officials who the network suspected might not be cooperative, people who were being watched but not yet approached. Chen's own name was on that list. The realization hit him with crystal clarity. He hadn't been under investigation because he was suspected of treason, he had been under investigation because he wasn't treasonous enough. The audit of his intelligence sources wasn't meant to expose security leaks, it was meant to determine whether Chen could be trusted with the truth about the collaboration. His personal communicator buzzed with an urgent message from Admiral Harrison. Marcus, I need you to report to Fleet Command immediately. Priority Alpha. Come alone. Chen stared at the message, understanding that this was the moment of truth. Harrison had decided whether to recruit him into the conspiracy or eliminate him as a threat. Either way, Chen was walking into a trap that would determine not just his own fate, but the fate of human civilization. He locked down his terminal, secured Sarah's intelligence data, and prepared for what might be the most important conversation in human history. As he left the command center, he activated a deadman switch on his personal communicator. If he didn't check in every 12 hours, the intelligence data would automatically transmit to a secure network of loyal officers throughout the fleet. If Harrison was planning to eliminate him, Chen would make sure the truth survived even if he didn't. The journey to Fleet Command took 30 minutes through the secure corridors of Prometheus Station. Chen used the time to study personnel files and communication logs, looking for evidence of the conspiracy's operations. What he found confirmed his worst fears: the collaboration had been systematic and thorough, infiltrating every level of Earth's defense structure. But he also found something else. Evidence that not everyone was cooperating. Several officers had reported suspicious activities that were subsequently buried or dismissed. A few scientists had raised questions about research data that seemed to disappear without explanation. Some politicians had questioned military strategies that seemed designed to fail. The resistance existed, but it was scattered and uncoordinated. If Chen could survive his meeting with Harrison and find a way to contact these potential allies, there might still be hope for humanity. Fleet Command occupied the highest security section of the station, protected by multiple layers of automated defenses and human guards. Chen submitted to the scanning procedures and identity verification, noting that the security protocols seemed unusually thorough. Either the threat level had been upgraded, or Harrison was taking special precautions for this meeting. Admiral Harrison's office was a stark, functional space dominated by tactical displays and communication equipment. The man himself stood with his back to the door, studying a strategic overview of the current battle. When Chen entered, Harrison turned with an expression that revealed nothing. "Marcus, thank you for coming. Please, sit down." Chen took the indicated chair, keeping his hands visible and his posture relaxed despite the tension crackling through the air. "You said it was urgent, sir." "Indeed it is. Marcus, what I'm about to tell you is classified beyond any security level you've previously encountered. The future of human civilization may depend on how you respond to what I'm going to reveal." Here it comes, Chen thought. The recruitment pitch or the death sentence. "Marcus, the war we're fighting isn't what it appears to be. The Zephyrians aren't simply an alien species trying to expand their territory. They're part of a larger galactic community, and our conflict with them has attracted the attention of powers that make the Zephyrians look like children playing with toys." Chen kept his expression neutral. "What kind of powers?" "Ancient civilizations with technology that can destroy solar systems. Military alliances that span thousands of worlds. Political structures that have existed for millions of years." Harrison moved to the tactical display, highlighting regions of space far beyond human exploration. "Humanity has been noticed, Marcus. And most of these galactic powers view us as a primitive, violent species that needs to be contained or eliminated." "But not all of them?" "No, not all. Some see potential in humanity. They believe we could become valuable members of the galactic community if we're properly guided. The Zephyrians are acting as intermediaries, testing our capabilities and our willingness to cooperate." Chen felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place. "Cooperate how?" "By demonstrating that humanity can evolve beyond our current limitations. By showing that we're capable of rational cooperation rather than destructive conflict." Harrison turned to face Chen directly. "Marcus, the current war is actually an evaluation. The galactic powers are watching to see how we handle defeat, how we adapt to superior technology, how we respond to offers of cooperation. And if we fail this evaluation, then humanity will be classified as a dangerous primitive species and quarantined permanently. Our expansion into space will be halted, our technology will be limited, and our future will be decided by powers beyond our comprehension." Chen studied Harrison's expression, seeing what appeared to be genuine conviction. "And if we pass?" "Then, we become junior partners in a galactic civilization that offers opportunities beyond our wildest dreams. Access to technologies that could solve every problem humanity faces. Knowledge that could advance our species by thousands of years. Protection from threats that we don't even know exist yet." Harrison activated another display showing technical schematics that looked remarkably similar to the hybrid technology Sarah had discovered. "Marcus, some of us have been working to ensure humanity passes this evaluation. We've been learning from the Zephyrians, adapting their technologies, and demonstrating our willingness to cooperate rather than simply fight. You're talking about collaboration with the enemy. I'm talking about cooperation with potential mentors. Marcus, the phase disruptor weapon you've been tracking? It's not meant to destroy Earth's fleets, it's meant to demonstrate the futility of continued resistance. When our ships are disabled rather than destroyed, when our personnel are captured rather than killed, it sends a message about our willingness to accept guidance. Chen felt sick as the full scope of the betrayal became clear. You're planning to surrender the entire human fleet. I'm planning to save human civilization by demonstrating our intelligence and adaptability. Marcus, this is bigger than national pride or military honor. This is about the survival and advancement of our entire species. Harrison moved closer, his expression becoming more intense. Marcus, you've been under observation for months. Your intelligence sources, your tactical innovations, your willingness to think beyond conventional strategies, all of it suggests you have the vision necessary to understand what's at stake here. What are you asking me to do? Join us. Help coordinate the transition. Use your intelligence assets to facilitate communication between Earth Command and the Zephyrian leadership. Be part of the solution instead of an obstacle to humanity's future. Chen looked at the man who had been his mentor and friend for over a decade, seeing him now as the architect of humanity's surrender. And if I refuse? Harrison's expression hardened. Then, you'll be classified as a security threat and dealt with accordingly. Marcus, this isn't a request, it's an opportunity. The only choice you have is whether to be part of humanity's evolution or an unfortunate casualty of our transition. Chen nodded slowly, as if considering the offer. In reality, he was calculating his chances of survival and the best way to warn the loyal elements of Earth Command about what was coming. Admiral, I appreciate your confidence in me. This is obviously a complex situation that requires careful consideration. Of course. But, I need your decision quickly, Marcus. The final phase of the evaluation begins in less than 48 hours. Either you're with us, or you're against the future of human civilization. Chen stood up, extending his hand as if to shake on an agreement. I understand the stakes, sir. You can count on my cooperation. Harrison smiled and grasped Chen's hand. Excellent, Marcus. I knew you were too intelligent to let pride interfere with practical necessity. As their hands met, Chen activated a concealed recording device he had prepared for exactly this moment. Every word of Harrison's betrayal was now documented, ready to be transmitted to the loyal officers whose names Sarah had provided. But, as Harrison's grip tightened, Chen realized he had made a critical error. The Admiral's smile had turned cold, and his other hand was moving toward a weapon at his belt. Unfortunately, Marcus, your intelligence sources have made that cooperation impossible. We know about your unauthorized contact with enemy surveillance assets. We know about the classified information that's been leaked through your channels. And, we know that you're not actually prepared to cooperate, you're prepared to resist. Chen tensed, preparing to fight, but Harrison's next words froze him in place. Your source is already in our custody, Marcus. Captain Sarah Mitchell has been very forthcoming about your relationship and your shared activities. She's explained how you've been using her supposed death to justify unauthorized intelligence operations. Very creative, I must admit. The trap had been perfect. Chen's loyalty to Sarah had been used against him, and her sacrifice had been turned into evidence of his treason. Whether she had been captured or killed, the result was the same. Chen was now completely isolated and facing immediate execution. But, as Harrison drew his weapon, Chen realized there was one thing the Admiral hadn't considered. Sarah Mitchell had been preparing for exactly this scenario for 5 years, and her contingency plans were more elaborate than anyone had suspected. Chen's communicator suddenly burst to life with a transmission that filled the room with Sarah's voice. Admiral Harrison, this is Commander Sarah Mitchell, speaking from the bridge of the Zephyrian command ship Hegemony. I'm transmitting on all fleet command frequencies to report that the collaboration network has been successfully infiltrated and documented. Harrison's face went white as Sarah's transmission continued. I am currently in possession of complete records of humans-Etherian cooperation, including personnel files, communication logs, and strategic plans. These records show a systematic betrayal of humanity by officers who believed they were ensuring our survival through surrender. The sound of weapon systems powering up could be heard in the background of the transmission. What these officers failed to realize is that the Zephyrian evaluation was never intended to result in human partnership. The galactic powers they've been told about are real, but humanity was never going to be invited to join them. We were going to be processed as livestock. Harrison's weapon wavered as the implications of Sarah's words sank in. The phase disruptor weapon isn't designed to disable human ships, it's designed to harvest human neural tissue for implantation in Zephyrian combat systems. The cooperation the collaboration network has been facilitating is actually the systematic conversion of human beings into biological components of alien war machines. Chen watched Harrison's face as the truth destroyed everything the man had believed about his noble sacrifice for humanity's future. Admiral Harrison, your cooperation has been instrumental in luring the Zephyrian fleet into a tactical position where their command structure can be completely eliminated. In approximately 30 seconds, I will be detonating the quantum charges I placed throughout this ship, destroying the Zephyrian High Command and their entire strategic database. The transmission paused, then Sarah's voice returned with the quiet determination Chen remembered from 100 battles. To all loyal Earth forces, the enemy fleet is now without centralized command. They are also without their phase disruptor technology, which requires constant guidance from their command ship. This is your opportunity to destroy an enemy force that has been temporarily blinded and crippled. Admiral Chen, this is my final transmission. The intelligence data I provided contains everything Earth needs to win this war and contact the actual galactic powers, the ones who oppose the harvest of biological species for military purposes. Use it well. The transmission ended in a burst of static that sounded like the death cry of an entire civilization. Harrison stood frozen, his weapon forgotten, staring at the communication equipment as if it might somehow undo the revelation that had just shattered his worldview. Chen looked at the man who had been prepared to sacrifice humanity for a lie, feeling a mixture of pity and disgust. Admiral, I think you should issue the order to attack while the enemy is still disorganized. Harrison turned to stare at Chen, his face showing the hollow expression of a man whose entire belief system had just collapsed. They were going to, we were helping them turn us into. Admiral, the fleet is waiting for orders. Slowly, mechanically, Harrison moved to his communication console and activated the fleet-wide command frequency. When he spoke, his voice was barely recognizable. All units, this is Fleet Command. The enemy's command structure has been eliminated. All ships are authorized to engage with maximum force. Repeat, all ships engage the enemy with maximum force. As the orders went out and Earth's fleets began their counterattack against the suddenly leaderless Zephyrian forces, Chen activated his own communicator and began implementing the contingency plans Sarah had prepared. The data she had gathered would revolutionize humanity's understanding of galactic politics. The technology she had acquired would give Earth the tools needed to defend against future threats. And the evidence she had compiled would allow the loyal officers to purge the collaboration network completely. Captain Sarah Mitchell had saved human civilization one final time, not through heroic combat, but through the ultimate intelligence operation, allowing herself to be captured so she could strike at the heart of humanity's greatest enemy. As Chen watched the tactical displays fill with reports of Earth victories across multiple star systems, he knew that Sarah's sacrifice had given humanity something more valuable than military victory. It had given them a future among the stars as a free and independent species, ready to take their place in a galactic community that respected strength rather than rewarding surrender. The ghost of the Outer Rim had finally come home.